Hello, it's us. It's Micah and Jordan in my Macaw Podcast Universe.
Universe, yes. This is the Macaw Podcast Universe. Here we are again. We are now past the halfway point on Marvel Phase 2.
And we probably could not be more excited
Yes,
than
because
this episode.
This is the best movie so far in the whole universe.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat it. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. It's a doozy.
I just want to kick it off with, when did you first see this movie? Because I know you have some fiery hot opinions about it when you first saw it.
Yeah, so my whole thing with the movie was I was fully off of Marvel at this point when it came out, and I took it out. This was in my point where I first really started getting into movies, and so unless it was a movie that I thought was a masterpiece, I thought it was bad. So it was like...
Tisk.
So if I wasn't watching There Will Be Blood or like Psycho or something, then it was a bad movie.
Tisk.
Oh my gosh. And so I walked out of the movie, but what was funny was I genuinely did laugh a few times, but I was like sitting there like arms crossed, like I don't want to laugh, and I convinced myself that it was a bad movie.
And I was told when Micah saw it, because I did not see it with him. This was before we really became friends. Mm-hmm. But I was told that at the end of the movie, when Baby Groot is dancing in the pot,
that's true though.
Micah was laughing so hard he was crying.
I was. Actually, of all the Marvel movies, I have laughed so hard I've cried in 2 of them. And if you can guess, it's Guardians of the
Galaxy.
And both of them have to do with Baby Groot, because the beginning of Guardians 2...
No, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Well, just a quick spoiler alert. I cried so hard that I had to wipe tears from my eyes. So
let me give listeners, this is when I first saw the movie.
And of course, this is the podcast that covers franchises and sequels.
This is Guardians today, baby.
Okay,
we're not getting into any of that crap.
Okay.
So when I first saw this movie, pretty similar to Micah, just really not into Marvel. And I was on a vacation with my family in Brookings, Oregon. Previously, I had seen Inception in Brookings, Oregon. And my reason for seeing Inception at this theater was because there was a fire. And we couldn't get back to our cabin. So we were just like, okay, let's see a movie and kill time. Happened to see Inception, walk out, and I'm like, is that the best movie I've ever seen in my life? Mm-hmm. And then, not much longer later, I think that we chose to see the movie at this point, but I was just like, we're going back to this
only
theater.
Like 5 years later.
Okay. Well, it's like, but we're going back to this theater that like I had a really positive experience at. So then we go and we see Guardians, and my expectations are pretty much non-existent.
Right.
And just almost immediately, I was like, this theater, I cannot.
Magic in the
I'm going to do
theater.
everything in my power to never see a bad movie in this theater, because the theater's actually a pretty cool theater from what I remember too. So it was just like, we
got to go to this theater.
Freaking loved the Brookings, Oregon theater.
Maybe we should go see Quentin Tarantino's 10th movie there.
I would love to do that. I would love it.
Yeah, so that's our experience. Then since having... This was like the 4th or 5th time I've watched the movie.
I also wanted to mention that's when I saw this movie, I saw it with my family. Yeah. And like my family and I, we go to, when I was with my family, we would see quite a bit of movies quite often. Especially during the summer. That's something that we would see a lot of movies, summer blockbusters. Mm-hmm. So it's always a big part of our family. So then seeing this one is the Guardians is such it's almost like the quintessential Martinez family movie. So then when we saw Guardians 2 with my dad and my brother and sister, it was just there's no one else in the world I want to see this movie with than my family.
Yeah.
This is how listeners...
And it is about family.
Yes. This is how important these movies are to me.
Right.
Sorry, I'm getting a little preachy towards it.
No.
I just love them.
I mean, you got to be crazy about some things.
And I'm crazy about this one.
Well, what's cool, I mean, I hate to just say it all at the beginning of the episode, but this movie really flips and it takes everything about it almost is worth some of the predictability that we've seen, just because this movie flips it on its head in such a way that it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
It is like when Roland goes into New York in the second book of the Dark Tower and he tries Coca-Cola and he's like, man, this is refreshing.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
After he's been out in the desert.
And we're going to get into all of that kind of stuff later on.
Yeah.
But shall I just jump in to the who is involved?
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention is it is kind of odd that this is the first. So, as we know, Iron Man wasn't a huge Marvel character previous to the movies. Mm-hmm. He was still a big part of comics, but he wasn't what he is now. Mm-hmm. Incredible Hulk, he was pretty big. Everybody knew who the Incredible Hulk was. What are the other movies? Captain America, huge, one of the pillars of Marvel. Mm-hmm. But up to this point, they haven't really ventured outside of the standard comic books of like people we would know. Besides Iron Man, but even him, he's still a pretty major character. Mm-hmm. So for them to pick this movie, and for the movie to do as well as it does, and for it, funny enough, to be some people's, including ours, like favorite of the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
These characters that I have never read comic books of theirs. I would love to change that by the end of this year.
But in a way, just really not mainstream in any shape or form.
Yeah, these are not mainstream comics, and for them to connect with audience, it is almost like a new. It's kind of like they introduced a new.
Completely new.
A completely new thing, like an original story, almost.
And what's great about
to a mainstream audience
is like with all of the other superhero movies that we've had so far, they're very grounded in Earth.
Yes.
And this like is in Earth for maybe 5 minutes, maybe. So and it's important, of course, that this came after Avengers, when it's like, okay, so aliens are a thing.
Yeah, the whole universe is opened up.
So it's beyond America
right
now. It is now Earth. So then this movie comes out, and you're like, okay, so this is Marvel's possibilities beyond Earth.
Yes.
And we'll get it. I'm not going to give my opinion just yet.
Well, I think everybody knows your opinion already.
Anyway, so I'm just going to jump right into who's involved.
Okay. So
you got James Gunn, who directed it.
Okay. What are some of his credits?
So in 2006, he does a movie called Slither, which there's so many times on IMDb I haven't clicked on that movie to see what it's about. And we got to watch it, Micah. Elizabeth Banks is in it.
Really?
Yeah.
That title really throws me off.
The guy who plays Yondu,
Michael Rook?
Yes. He's in it. It's like considered a comedy horror sci-fi.
Okay.
So it's like this, almost like this plague that takes over people, turns them into zombies. But like the pictures I was scrolling through, it's like beyond kind of zombies. They're kind of also turned into just like weird mutant things.
Okay.
So it just seems like a fun spin on the genre.
Okay. I think the cover has like
a person
woman
in a bathtub,
and then there's like things coming into a bathtub. So I assumed it was overtly sexual.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of written the movie off.
And I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was just looking through pictures, and there was this one picture that just looked very funny. Mm-hmm. But very almost gory.
Okay.
At the same time.
Maybe like a Sam Raimi kind of vibe.
So like very into seeing it.
Okay.
We could even make it one of our bad movie nights.
Well, maybe it's a good movie.
I'm just saying, no risk.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was in 2006.
Okay.
So then you have Super in 2010.
Shut up, crime.
Yes.
Tagline of the movie.
Starring
Rainn Wilson.
Yes.
And,
also,
don't tell me. Oh crap, what is her name? She's in Inception. She's in Umbrella Academy. She's in Juno. Oh, it does have Liv Tyler in it.
Yeah, I forgot about the other person.
And Kevin Bacon, I think.
Yes, and Michael Rook.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Ellen Page.
Yeah.
Wow.
If anyone who listens to this podcast has not seen Super, please go watch it. It's been on Netflix forever.
I don't think it is anymore.
Oh, okay. But if it's been on it in the past, it'll be on it again.
It's very funny, and you can see why he writes the way he writes with Guardians, because the whole idea is Rainn Wilson wants to become a superhero, and so he becomes one, and he just throws wrenches at people.
It's just for like as if you listener wanted to become a vigilante, but you have nothing to do, you have no skills.
Yeah.
What would you do? You'd probably throw a wrench at people.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, maybe skip ahead 15 seconds, because my favorite scene in the movie is when he's in line at the theater and someone cuts him and he leaves, puts on his suit, comes back with a wrench and beats a guy, I think, to death, because he does an injustice. In his mind, he counts that as an injustice, or like to within an inch of his life. And I was laughing so hard when I watched that.
It's truly a crazy movie.
Yeah, it's very funny.
It's worth a rent.
Oh yeah.
So then after that, he has done movie 43,
which I think is multiple people. That's kind of like a collaborated movie.
Have you seen the Metascore on that movie?
Yeah, I don't count those kind of movies as movies for a director.
I know.
He directed a scene.
I know. But the movie has an 18 Metascore.
Woof.
That's bad.
That is very bad.
That was in 2013. Then you have Guardians. And with that being said, he's got some other directing credits.
Those are some movies.
Beyond that, but like those are like big notable ones.
Yeah.
So then he gets Guardians.
Cool.
Also, fun fact for listeners, previously married to Jenna Fisher, also known as Pam from The Office.
Oh, I always forget that.
Him
you
and
always
Pam
bring that up.
were married at one time or another, which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense to me. Just based on the very limited knowledge I know about both these people. Okay. So then I'm also going to get into Chris Pratt.
Okay.
Who plays Star-Lord. Who also plays Peter Quill. Same person.
Who?
He is in 9 episodes of The O.C. Mm-hmm. He's in the movie Wanted in 2008.
That is right.
He's in Bride Wars. And
that movie has Anne Hathaway in it, right?
And Kate Hudson.
And that's the one where she turns orange at one point from doing like a spray tan. Yeah.
Probably. I know that Kate Hudson, her hair turned blue. But then like
a lot of color changes
same
in that
year,
movie.
Same year, Parks and Rec stars. And he's Andy Dwyer. He steals the heart of the nation.
Yes.
Everyone loves Andy.
Big old fat doofus.
Yes. And then that's 2009. Mm-hmm. Then you have Moneyball 2010.
He's a baseball player.
What's your number in 2011, which stars Anna, who was his, like, I'm assuming that's how they met and they got married.
Oh, okay.
They're not married anymore, but like,
yeah,
they got married. And then Zero Dark 30 2012.
Yep.
And then
I'm remembering all these every time I say it.
And then Her, I guess he's in Her in 2013. Me neither. And then Lego Movie and Guardians is the same year.
Interesting.
That's crazy. What a big year for him. Mm-hmm. So then that's Chris Pratt. By the time he's in Guardians, more than anything, people were like, Andy Dwyer's in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
That's where he's at. Then you have Vin Diesel as Groot.
Yeah.
This is the only acting credit I have cared to put down.
Well, he's in Fast and Furious.
The movie he did
he's
before.
In the Pacifier.
Stop. The movie he did before this movie was Fast and Furious 6.
Okay.
I'm scrolling now down to Bradley Cooper.
There's a very funny, if you look up Vin Diesel doing the voice acting for Groot, it's very funny because he's wearing like
sunglasses.
He's the aviator glasses.
Yeah.
And he's in a room and he's doing it, and I mean, props to him.
He's smiling as he's doing it.
Props to him because it is great. I mean, Groot is awesome. I love Groot so much, but it's just kind of goofy looking.
The craziest part to me in watching those is realizing that they didn't have to change his voice very much.
Yeah, his voice is that low. It's Groot, but without sounding strained like I just
sounding like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. We'll make an appearance in the next Guardians.
Yes, true. So then you have Bradley Cooper, and he's got quite an extensive list of stuff. I'm just going to plow through it.
And my flaming hot opinion, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to stand by it. Even if you include A Star is Born, I personally think that Rocket in Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy is his best performance. Because it is so transformative, and he has become my favorite character in the entire cinematic universe.
Let's see if you still agree with that after I go through this list. Okay.
I just think that he really captures something special, and he's got great comedic timing, and until I watched the video of him doing it, I could not hear his voice.
And this is coming from a guy who didn't know it was Bradley Cooper until I told him.
Well, I mean, I knew it was.
I
Bradley
thought you didn't
Cooper.
know that.
No, I knew it was Bradley Cooper.
Anyway.
I just couldn't hear his voice in it. That's what I was saying.
His first acting credit is Sex and the City, 1999.
Oh, okay. I stand totally corrected. My favorite performance.
Okay. Then he's in Wet Hot American Summer, 2001. Wedding Crashers, 2005. Failure to Launch, 2006. Alias, 46 episodes in the show
Whoa.
Alias. Crazy. Starring as Will Tippin. You probably know that. I've never seen that show.
I've only seen like 3 episodes.
Micah was a huge fan of that show.
I watched 3
A
episodes.
huge fan for 3 episodes of that show.
I wasn't a huge fan. My first crush was Jennifer Garner. That's all that this comes down to.
He's in Yes Man. Then he's Just Not That Into You. And in the same year, he's in Hangover and All About Steve.
Hangover
2009.
is what like launches his career.
Yes.
Into the public eye.
But as you can tell before that, he was like, I think
the
in a
romantic
way,
comedy guy.
yes.
This makes him like this suave, cool guy.
Which is
that,
funny
like,
because I just don't find him that attractive. I think that he's got
he's an attractive
he's
man.
got charisma.
Yeah.
And I think that works for him more than his looks. But that's a personal personal
Although in A
preference.
Star Is Born, certainly not attractive.
Okay, have not seen it. Then in 2010, you have 18. 2011, Hangover 2.
I
2012.
can't believe they made 3 Hangover movies.
Yeah.
It would be an all-time comedy classic if there was just
cover
one.
that.
We are going to have to cover Hangover 2 and
2012, Silver Linings Playbook.
3.
2013, American Hustle. And then you have Guardians.
Crazy.
And then you have Guardians.
What a crazy career.
So then you have Zoe Saldana, who plays Gamora, Green Girl. Her first acting credit is Law & Order in 1999. Then she's in Drumline, starring Nick Cannon in 2002. Then she's in Pirates of the Caribbean, Black Pearl, 2003. Terminal, starring Tom Hanks. She's in Star Trek and Avatar in the year of 2009. And then Columbiana in 2011.
Yeah.
The Words, I only wrote that down because her and Bradley Cooper star in that together in 2012. And then Star Trek Into Darkness and Out of the Furnace is both in 2013. And then she's in Guardians.
Okay.
So even she is very, very established before this movie.
A lot of that is lesser known. I mean, of course, Avatar is the highest
Avatar
grossing
and
movie of all time.
and Star Trek.
Yeah, but a lot of those in between. Well, I guess never mind. I revoke what I said.
She's in a lot, Micah.
Yeah.
And I even skip over stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have Dave Bautista, who plays Drax, who is just so lovable and wonderful.
Great.
He has, before when it was announced that this guy was going to be in this movie, and that he's a WWE fighter, I was just like, oh, how good can this person be? But then I heard, I never confirmed this, but I'm just going to say it because it's fun. I heard and read somewhere that like he was so excited to earn the role in this Marvel movie that he immediately took up acting classes.
Great.
So it just shows his passion for this character and for this franchise. So you assume like, oh, if that's when he finally got into acting classes, he's got to have like 6 acting credits. He has 70. With that being said, most of them are WWE acting credits.
Right.
So the things that I wrote down.
I don't know why they would call real wrestling acting, but I guess that's
I know,
just
isn't that odd?
That's very odd.
In 2006, he's in an episode of Smallville. I'm sure he's big and he breaks things.
Probably, yeah.
And then he is in the movie Riddick, starring Vin Diesel.
Oh.
2013.
That's a series as well.
Did I say 2013? That sounds wrong.
I don't think it.
Whatever.
2013, but
no, I think it's 2003 or something. And then whatever. Goes through a ton of stuff. He's in Guardians. Now he's been in Blade Runner. Now he's coming out with a movie with Kumail Nanjiani.
that already came out.
That already came out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When the podcast is out.
Oh, okay.
Wink, wink. We didn't
So
record this ahead of time.
This movie really just puts this guy on the map.
Yes,
He's
absolutely.
great. So then
and let me hit you with this. I think that something that's kind of special about this movie beyond the others, more than any of the other Marvel movies, you can tell that everyone on the team, including Nebula as well, and even all the supporting cast, everyone is having so much fun with their roles. No one I mean, I could be wrong and they're tricking me, but it feels like no one is doing this for money. I know that they are.
Oh, yeah,
but
I know.
It feels like everyone's just like, I love this. I love this script. I love this character. Like you're talking about with
that makes me think
Dave, like trying to get acting lessons. It just feels like everyone was so into giving this movie 100%.
Well, that makes me think of what kind of production James Gunn runs.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, maybe in a big part because of his production, he just creates this atmosphere that like makes you want to work hard. Mm-hmm. Because when he was fired from Disney for a brief period of time after Guardians 2, a couple of the actors were like, I will not work on the third movie if he's not involved. Like, what does he have to establish as a director and a producer and a writer to like get people
for them
to not
turn
want
their
to work
back
with him
on millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Because I remember Dave Bautista specifically. There's a couple interviews, and at least one that I watched where he's being interviewed about when James Gunn was fired, and he said, I'm disappointed. I don't want to work for this company if they're gonna treat someone who wants to change and be a different person this way. So I mean, I really don't want to be a part of the next Guardians unless they hire him back.
Yeah,
and it worked, and he's back. And Guardians 3 will probably be the best of all three of the movies.
Yeah. I'm almost done, by the way. So then you have Michael Rooker, who plays Yondu.
Oh, it's Rooker? Okay.
I think so.
I think
he's in the movie Slither, like I said previously. Mm-hmm. And then he's also in Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
Listeners, I know you're probably like, he's in so much more than that. I understand. He's been around the block.
Yeah.
That's all. By the end of all this note-taking, it's just like, let's focus on the Guardians.
Yes.
And then I briefly wrote down Lee Pace, who plays Ronan. Okay. And then it's interesting, before this movie, he was in Breaking Dawn 2, which is the last movie of the Twilight series.
Yes.
And then he's in Hobbit.
He's in Hobbit?
Yeah, wow. He's the elf in the Hobbit.
Okay.
He's like the wood elf.
The elf that rides the elk? With the big antlers? Okay.
Yes.
See, I can't...
As soon as we watch that movie and you see it, you're like, how could I not see that? Because immediately when I saw Guardians, I was like, that's the guy from The Hobbit.
Oh, okay. Because
I know he's wearing a lot of makeup.
He's wearing so much makeup that I can't really see... I can't like see his who he is beyond that.
And since then, he's been in a ton of stuff. Yeah. He's been around. And then he's also in The Desolation of Smaug in 2013.
Yeah.
And then the same year Guardians comes out is the same year that Five Armies...
Battle of the Five Armies
comes out.
That's going to be so crazy whenever we cover Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to just do all 6, right? As like one big series.
Maybe.
Because it's such a fall from grace. Because
that would be interesting.
Lord of the Rings is amazing. And then the Hobbit movies are just...
Or do we do the Hobbit first?
No, we have to go... I've decided we got to do everything in production order. Because that way we can track the progress. And it makes series like... X-Men and the Alien series like easier to cover because you don't have to figure out like when to watch what movie.
Listener, get ready for some long episodes.
Yeah, those Hobbit episodes. And I've never seen Battle of the Five Armies.
Me neither.
Because I was so upset with Desolation of Smaug.
But just Lord of the Rings in general, because I'm saying this right now, I'm pledging this to the listener. We're doing extended version. We're not doing non-extended crap. It's extended or go home.
Except for the Hobbits. We're doing normal theatrical.
We're doing normal theatrical release for the Hobbit.
I can't do more than that. Okay, is that all of your notes?
Yes.
Wow. We are...
Get ready for a long episode here today, too.
So, written by James Gunn and Nicole Perlman. But, so Nicole Perlman, this is the first woman in the series that is credited with something beyond an acting role. Or like a...
Producing.
There might have been one producer earlier.
I think you mentioned that last time.
Yeah. But no writers or directors that are female yet. So that's kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. But Nicole Perlman wrote a draft, and Gunn rewrote it all. And he said that there was no Walkman and pretty much completely different. But then Gunn was quoted saying, but the WGA sure likes the first writers a lot. So he kind of claims that they completely scrapped her script. So she was kind of interesting, though, because she was given...
a ton of awards.
Oh.
I was just briefly looking at her biography.
Okay.
And she was just like won a lot of awards for like writers to watch in the year that she was given the awards, or like just a lot of like very, very impressive and promising.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that she Marvel came to her, wanted her to write a script, and they put a bunch of projects on the table, and she chose Guardians, and she had an opportunity to do a bunch of other ones.
Interesting.
And I think Marvel was kind of like, what? You want to do that one? The like unknown one? Music is by Tyler Bates, who plays in a band, the Marilyn Manson Band, or has played.
Okay.
And he does the music.
So he's into makeup, like he's used to that kind of thing.
He must be. He did the music for the John Wick franchise, all three of them, the Watchmen and 300.
Love it. Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Do you love 300?
I loved it when I was a teenager, and I loved gore.
Okay.
Today,
no. Not. Cinematography, Ben Davis. He did Dumbo, Doctor Strange, Seven Psychopaths, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Okay.
And the cinematography in this movie is really nice.
That's why I'm kind of confused with Doctor Strange, because I was just not impressed.
I think you might be wrong on that one.
We're gonna fight for when
I know.
we get to that
yeah,
one.
Jordan's not super into Doctor Strange, and I'm not like crazy about it, but I think it's a pretty cool movie. I think they had a lot of fun with the concept.
I think well, never mind. I'm not going to talk about it right now.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But I don't remember the cinematography specifically, but especially the scenes where they're like running through the city as it's morphing was just so cool.
That's cool. That's cool. But I mean, just like colors, just colors and all. I'm not talking about special effects.
Okay, we'll bar it.
Let's fight about it right now.
This movie came out August 1st, 2014. It's produced by none other than Kevin Feige.
Who?
Domestically, the movie makes $333 million, $176,600.
Wait, what's the budget?
Production is $170 million.
So this movie did very well.
Yes. But I think later I have a note that says that it actually cost more to make. So put a pin on that one.
It still profited quite a bit.
Worldwide, the movie made $773,328,629. Now, can you take a guess? So again, to set the stage, this is really Marvel sticking their neck out. This is like the first time that it's like it's not one of the sequels. It's not a wide-known character.
You could consider this as the first risk that they took.
Well, I don't think it's the first risk they took, but it's one of the after like establishing what they've established. This is the first like risk.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
So there are 23 movies in the franchise.
Okay.
Take a guess at where this ranks in the box office.
Hopefully. Oh, box office?
In the box office.
Oh, I don't know.
Take a guess.
No, I don't know.
Please?
Like, I mean, I hope it's number 2. Right after. Oh, I'm not including. It's hard to not include Infinity War and Endgame. So let's go with number 4.
Okay. No.
Which I know it won't.
Way off.
It's a very low.
It's not very low. It's
in
number
the middle?
11. It's number 11.
So very
out
middle.
of 23. So it's above half, which is just it's crazy. That's above like well-known characters and sequels.
Should be number 4.
It's the third highest grossing in the Phase 2 movies. So it's
What's
only
the first?
it's
Iron
only
Man
below
3?
Avengers and Iron Man 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So then
it's below Avengers
Age of Ultron.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's Avengers. It's going to make more money than a solo movie. Brian Muir, who sculpted Darth Vader's and Stormtroopers masks, worked on the film.
Oh, cool. Do you know what he did specifically? Like character design, probably? Okay.
Specifically. David White did the makeup. White and his team created upwards of 1,000 prosthetic makeup applications and 2,000 molds of different colored aliens. That's a quote from Wikipedia.
It's fun, listener, to look up just like makeup application videos of the characters.
Yeah.
Because they're all time-lapsed.
The Nebula one's crazy. And
it's very crazy. And it's just so fascinating. Even though there's no audio, you feel like you learn a lot when watching it.
Yeah. And it is kind of crazy looking at, Yondu, Nebula, Drax, and seeing how practical their look is.
Yeah.
It's not really digital.
The only digital thing that I remember in watching those is Yondu's, the top of his head.
Yeah.
Because he has that thing in his head. There was a tiny bit
even the like skin that's around it.
No, yeah, but I'm just saying
prosthetic.
You can see a tiny bit of like slivers of green, which you just know that it's just used when it lights up.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah, it's cool.
It's very when you compare that to like Iron Man's suit, where it's like now Robert Downey Jr. Well, not anymore because he's done, but in the later movies he doesn't have, like, he's not wearing a suit at all, and the suit sometimes does look really good, but sometimes it doesn't look that good.
I wonder if
this movie, these like costumes and makeup look so good.
Well, in a movie that uses so much CGI because it is in space, I wonder if a fun part for them was just like, okay, what can we do practically?
Yeah. Well, and I think what's cool is the effects in this movie, the like totally CGI stuff, most of it is very colorful, and it's like kind of cosmic and psychedelic and kind of out there.
Yeah.
So having the other stuff very real and grounded, like, is a really nice juxtaposition, and it's very pleasant to look at.
So do you have anything on the music? Just in terms of compilation?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I know. Well, actually, no, I do. Yes, I'm getting there. I got a lot to get through.
Okay.
So this is another quote. Director of photography Ben Davis used Arri Alexa XT cameras for the film, saying, "I'm traditionally a photochemical fan, but going with the digital format was the right way for this movie. The Alexa provided the right look for the particular film. During the opening scenes in the 1980s, Davis chose JDC Cooke XT-AL Crystal Express anamorphic prime lenses because they had more anamorphic artifacts and aberrations, which he felt added something. Davis used spherical Panavision primos for the rest of the film. Additionally, Davis worked closely with production designer Charles Wood in order to achieve the correct lighting looks to each scene. Dealing with two fully CGI characters forced Davis to shoot scenes multiple times, usually once with the reference for the characters and once without them in the shot."
Oh, interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Now I'm curious about when we get to the second movie.
If that changes.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, I was going to say that same thing.
We're nerds.
Yeah. Well, that's why we made this podcast.
Yeah.
So, a fun thing, Sean Gunn, who is in the movie, he's Yondu's right-hand man.
Yes.
Is the on-set Rocket. So, Bradley Cooper is not there while they're filming. He just goes to the recording booth, records his lines, and then Sean Gunn acts him out on set in a little...
Like in terms of motion capture?
I think there's a basic amount of motion capture, yes.
So he would be the person to do that?
It was hard to find footage that had him. I thought it would be easier to find. I was looking around.
We did see a stand-in, and it was obviously not him.
Yeah.
Because the person was very short.
Oh, I didn't see that, but I saw where he's...
It was the scene where they were walking in that slow motion, like right before the big battle scene. Uh-huh. And Groot, obviously, was... there was a guy in a green suit.
Yeah.
And then you had a little guy.
Who is Christian Godlewski is the on-set Groot.
So then you have a little guy who you're like, that's definitely Rocket.
Oh, okay.
And it could not have been Sean Gunn.
I just know some of the one footage I saw, he was like crawling around on the ground. So
that makes sense. So how tall is the Groot guy?
I don't remember. I didn't write that down.
Believable.
Sorry, kiddo. It went over budget to $232 million.
Dang.
But they got a rebate from the British government of 36.4.
Good for them.
Don't know what that means or how that works.
Using our country, you get this much money back.
Yeah, I guess so. When choosing the songs, Gunn revealed he started the process by reading the Billboard charts for all the top hits of the 70s, downloading a few hundred songs that were semi-familiar ones you recognize but not be able to name off the top of your head, and creating a playlist for all the songs that would fit the film tonally. As Elaine would say, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then you'd write
the interesting thing, and I don't know if you've looked this up or not, but like from my knowledge of this movie, and I think the second one, but especially this movie, like there are just like some songs in the soundtrack that weren't really famous until these movies came out.
Yeah, I think that's less in this movie.
Okay, more in the other one.
The next movie has like 3 or 4 songs that although they had their heyday to an extent, it got more famous after Guardians 2 came out.
It's just so interesting to me because you hear those songs and you're like, these are just big. They're bangers. They're great.
Oh yeah,
they're such hits. And then you find out like because of the movie, they've been revitalized.
Totally. And this movie was nominated for 2 Oscars,
makeup
and visual effects, but did not win. But it got,
okay.
That's it. What is it? What is that? Hour 1?
Okay.
Now are we getting into the plot?
Let me just start off with, I love this movie.
Well,
have I said that yet?
Save your opinion, It's time to talk about the movie.
So, movie opens. It says Earth 19. Do you remember the exact year?
88.
88. You see a boy who is the same who plays Stan in It Chapter 1.
Yes.
So you see a boy sitting in a hospital listening to a Walkman. And you find out quickly his mother is on her deathbed. Mm-hmm. She has cancer. And all she wants to do is give him one final gift before she leaves. I just burped and you could totally hear that. And all she wants to do is say goodbye. He can't say goodbye.
Well, he can't grab her hand.
He can't grab her hand as she's asking him for it.
And she talks about his father, and she says he's an angel.
Yes.
He was an angel, and she wishes he could have met him and stuff like that.
This is the first scene of the movie. Already, most people don't know anything about the Guardians. So this starts, and you're like, I don't even know what to expect after this.
Yeah.
But I'm crying.
I'm not crying. But
I'm nearly crying. So, and then you see trailers, presumably, and you're like, when does the space stuff kick in? Not like this is the first long scene.
Wait. Hang on. I totally disagree with what you're saying. You're saying that people less than 5 minutes into the movie are going, when is this space stuff happening?
People are ripping the seats out of the theater.
You know what I bet most people are thinking? Is they're sitting there, and I bet this is what you thought too, and they're going, okay, so that's Chris Pratt when he's a kid, and he goes to space here pretty soon.
But they're ripping their seats out of the theater, and they're tossing them up at the screen. You know they are.
So they don't like the movie.
No, they like the movie.
Okay.
But they might be crying a little bit. That's pretty emotional.
And then his mom dies.
Well, spoiler alert.
And he runs outside, and he's all sad, and he's crying, and he's got the gift with him, and then he is beamed up. Interesting that we both said that exactly
and you're like,
the same.
Whoa, what? Where's he going?
Or you're thinking probably going to space.
The movie is starting. That's probably what people are thinking as they're ripping their seats up.
Yeah,
but not throwing them at the screen because they're just enraptured in what's going on.
And then I'm taking over this next scene.
Fine,
because the next scene it shows this planet and it says like the year or something.
I'm just gonna cut in saying best opening title sequence of all time.
Of all time? No, that's not true.
One of the best of all time.
Yeah. Best in Marvel, for sure.
One of the best of all time. Can you at least agree with that? One of?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. I'm done.
So we see the music changes and it's very like intense and stuff. Mm-hmm. And see, this is why the movie is so good. This is why the movie is brilliant. Is this scene. This is like the thesis of the film. So it comes in and you're like, okay, here we go. And as my first viewing, and I think every time you watch it, you kind of go, here we go again. Mm-hmm. Another Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. Got to start the plot. Here we go. So he lands on this planet, and there's rain going everywhere, and he goes into this temple, and you see that it's Chris Pratt. And he's even like, he takes off his mask, which is a cool technology.
But what's fun is immediately there's just so much world building without saying any words.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about these movies, like Guardians 1 and 2, is the world building without having to explain it, and you just understand how it works.
Yeah.
Continue.
And they have like his mask is what is
showing what the civilization was before it was destroyed, because it's an abandoned planet that it's on.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cool technology, and they're already establishing right off the bat. To someone like me, they're like, this isn't Star Wars technology. This is a different kind of technology.
Okay.
Because to me,
something
it's like
I've never thought of
anything
before.
outside of space, in space, I'm always like, is this Star Wars or is it real life? Because that's how it always.
I've never thought of.
That's how it always feels to me. And this one has a very distinct look and feel. That's not. It doesn't feel like Star Wars or something you'd get confused for Star Wars.
It's important to establish that.
I think it is, because otherwise it's a little it can feel rip-offy if it has a Star Wars vibe to it and it's in space.
So what's a rip-off Star Wars thing that you've ever seen?
I couldn't give you any examples off the top of my head.
So it's just something that's in the back of your mind, though.
Yeah, and maybe everyone's succeeding at it. It's one of those things that I look at, and there's a certain like look and a feel, and if they do that, sometimes it can work in their favor, but sometimes it's like, okay.
Interesting. I've never ever in my life have ever thought about that.
Would it be like probably something similar would be no. I was going to say like
Lord of the Rings
Twilight
into
to
something
Harry Potter.
else. Turning Lord of the Rings into something else. Oh, Game of Thrones?
Yeah, no,
I'm just
even
kidding.
that's
I don't
different.
feel
Actually,
that
though,
way.
I remember
I don't feel that way.
when Lord of the Rings did come out, there were a lot of movies that started coming out that were like sword and fantasy movies, and you could tell it was like, oh, you're doing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I just want to
But not
clarify,
in a
though, I
fun,
don't feel that
interesting
way
way.
about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is...
It is its own thing.
Its own thing,
Yeah.
Way less good of a thing, for sure.
Well, sure, but it's not... I don't feel that way.
But this isn't a TV
even though I've
podcast.
only seen that show once.
Anyway, so he walks in, and there's even like a hero shot where he's kind of looking up, and then he puts on a Walkman, and it goes boom, 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 and he starts
Anthony,
dancing.
feel free to play a soundbite of the song.
Don't, because we will get sued.
Okay.
But he
What if you just put the soundtrack like in spurts throughout this episode?
If you want to do your own soundtrack, you can. Don't do the other one, though, because then we'll get in trouble.
Can't you play a certain amount of the song before?
I don't know
in
how
trouble?
it works, and I haven't. I'm
Anthony,
too scared to
you
figure it
so
out.
desire to Google that.
If you can figure it out and make it work, you should do it.
Yeah. There's a free coffee in it for you.
Okay. We're never gonna get past the first scene of this movie.
No, we're not.
So the music plays, and then in like bold all caps covering the entire screen, there's a wide shot of him sliding in the rain, and it says Guardians of the Galaxy.
And he's dancing.
And he's kicking these rats, and you're kind of just laughing, and you're seeing this decrepit old civilization that's dead.
Yeah.
And right away, to me, that's the beauty of Guardians of the Galaxy, is it takes all the superhero cliches and turns them on their head.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie is so good. And it's almost like this movie almost couldn't exist. It couldn't have existed before 2008 with the same impact.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think also one thing that it does such a great job at, and it's also a hard job to do, is it's doing that, and at the same time, it is clearly defining what the story is about.
Yeah.
So while it's making fun of those things, or flipping those things on their heads, like the whole reason he's on this planet is to get this orb.
Yeah.
That he wants to get to make a lot of money for. And that plays in so much more than you could ever imagine.
Right.
Several movies from now. But like I remember the first time I'm seeing it, I'm like, okay, he's getting this orb. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
And then he goes into finds the guy who's wanting to buy it. And he finds out who wants it, which is Thanos.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
But you do find out, even in this movie, that it's very important.
Yeah, but it is cool because, I mean, as I was watching it the first time, I'm thinking it's kind of like an Indiana Jones idol. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just the MacGuffin to whatever else is going on.
But it's kind of fun because throughout the first three phases of Marvel, all of these MacGuffins of the stones wind up turning into the major plot points of the entire like universe.
I wonder if they'll like become a term in film.
Yeah, I don't know, because it is like they are MacGuffins, and then you find out later that they're not MacGuffins.
Yeah, so you should have been
paying
paying attention the whole time.
Yeah, so it's a little bit odd because it's kind of I don't know what that would be called. I don't know if another series has really done that.
It's called the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Maybe it is.
Infinity stoning. That's so bad. Okay, so Chris...
Gauntleting. How about that? That sounds bad, too.
So let me just clarify first. As we go through this movie, Micah, let's try not to like relay every joke that happens, because it's hard not to do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They're so funny. But I'm just going to say one thing that carries on throughout the movie. That's why this is okay to say.
The Star-Lord.
Yeah, all Chris Pratt wants, all Peter Quill wants is for people to call him Star-Lord. And the whole time, no one just will either remember it or care. So it says a lot about his character. He wants to be someone infinitely important. Mm-hmm. And he's just a man.
Yeah.
No one really cares about him. So he gets this orb, and then it cuts to Gamora, her sister, and Ronan, who need the orb. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was trying to get it at the same time Chris Pratt was. Chris Pratt successfully gets it and leaves.
And there's the cool scene where Ronan is like, he comes out of this pool of black,
it's freaking cool
mud or something.
Yeah.
And then he has these like servants who paint his face, and then he kills someone and like smashes their head and like blood comes down.
Yeah, he seems like a god.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
It's pretty cool.
It's just so visually stimulating. Like there's texture to his character.
And for some reason, I did not like him really. I liked his design. I didn't like his motive or anything like that.
I was more into it
all
this
the time, but for some reason this time I didn't have any issues with it.
I think
felt like maybe I've seen the movie enough, or maybe I just I don't know. Maybe I'm not being critical enough of this movie or something, but I didn't have any problems with his motive.
I think that I had less of not like I had a problem, but I cared more this time because I realized that Gamora and Nebula, who are sisters,
yes,
are like they are Thanos' daughter, not biologically, but they're Thanos' daughter, and he gave them to Ronan to help him to destroy Xandar, sorry, in exchange for something else.
Yeah.
So, you're right off the bat. It's like, what kind of deal does this guy need to make to destroy a planet? Like, what's his deal with this planet? Uh-huh. And it's interesting because it's like Xandar. It's a planet we've never heard of. Thank God it's not Earth, because you're just kind of tired of it always being about Earth. So it's just like, what is his personal beef with this planet? Uh-huh. And of course, it's not like that important in the grand scheme of things, but that's like the real MacGuffin. Is this guy is just trying to destroy a planet. He needs to get this orb that Peter Quill has procured.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's inside it. Mm-hmm. So Gamora is like, I'm going to get it for you.
Yeah.
So she's trying to get it from him.
Yeah. And then are we on Xandar at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like Peter is stuck with the orb because
the buyer, once he knows Thanos wants it, he's like, I'm out. Or Ronan. He finds out Ronan wants it, and he's like,
yes,
I'm not taking this stone.
Yes. And so you also kind of find out, I think, in that time that like Peter used to work or / does work for Yondu, who is Michael Rooker, who is blue with a red stripe in his head. And you do like realize pretty quickly, like, this guy raised him. He is the person who beamed him up from Earth.
Yeah.
He took him. So like, why is he not with him anymore? What's the deal? Yeah. And then so he's like, okay, who am I going to sell this orb to now? Because I just want to make a ton of quick money and leave.
Yeah.
As he's trying to figure that out, Gamora steals it from him.
Yeah, and then there's the fun. Like, we're introduced to Rocket and Groot, and they all get wound up trying to take the orb / like Rocket and Groot are trying to get Quill because he has a bounty on his head.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff, and then they all get arrested.
Yeah. Now, and that's when we see John C. Reilly.
Yeah, and Glenn Close, which is so random that she's
Peter
in this
Serafinowicz, too.
Yes, yeah. Who's kind of like a secret friend of ours.
Yeah.
He's our secret friend.
I wish he was a true secret friend.
Yeah. I wish he was a public friend of ours.
Yes.
Yeah. But oh crap, what was it? I think I lost it.
Sorry.
I think this movie, because of all the stuff from Guardians 2 with his dad and his relationship to Yondu.
Yeah.
I think beyond the other movies, and again, it could be just that I'm more attached to this material. I think that Guardians 1 benefits most from its sequels. And I think that's part of why Guardians 2 is so good, because it really builds upon what's in this movie and it fills in the gaps that you kind of... There are gaps in this movie that are not gaping holes. They're just enough for you to be like, ooh, I'd love for that to be expounded upon.
Yeah.
But it also, if it wasn't ever, I wouldn't be unsatisfied. It's not like a cliffhanger.
That's the beautiful thing that they do in this movie that works with their world building.
Mm-hmm.
It asks all these questions. You don't need the answers to them. You just want to know. Just by like sheer curiosity. I was like in this rewatch. It had been a while since I'd seen this movie, and this is like my 4th time seeing it. But like I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. But I think that since we had been rewatching all of the other Marvel movies, it's just so clear how much better this movie is than all of the ones that we have seen.
Well, and let's get into one of the biggest things we talked about, because spoiler alert for the audience, this is the first time we did this. We watched Phase 2 out of order.
Oh no.
I hope they'll forgive us.
Yeah.
But the last movie we watched was Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Now, I still contend I like that movie, but it does have the color palette of washed out concrete. It just does.
Yeah.
And the whole movie does, so there is kind of not a strain on your eyes, but you do get a little bit tired of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And the upgrade in visuals from that movie to this movie, it is just like... It is so relieving.
Yeah.
And even so far in the movie, we've only talked about like 3 different scenes, but they all look different. And they do have the one, and it's in broad daylight, which is like another... I don't know why they have all their scenes in broad daylight.
For like only 2 minutes.
Yeah, but they also have the final battle in broad daylight, which is kind of weird.
And we did mention that, yeah.
But it also, the clouds look really nice. They spent some time on those clouds, because it does look kind of fun.
And we'll get to there a little bit later.
Yeah, but...
Hopefully people are still listening to this.
Maybe they put it on like 1.5 speed to get through.
Yeah.
But I just think that the visual... Just having colors in the movie,
a color palette,
just changes how I feel about it. And watching it so close to Winter Soldier, I mean, because I was a little bit afraid that we'd watch it this time, and of course we'd still love it, but it'd still be like, got to get through this movie because we're doing these, and it was such a joy.
Micah and I were eating candy like a couple of girls.
Yeah, we watched it like 5 days ago because we were like, oh, we'll be fine on that podcast because we're
5 days
killing
since
it.
we've seen it.
Yeah, it was like on Friday last week.
When are we going to watch
Saturday.
it again? That's the real question.
Well, we got to watch 2 first.
Okay.
Yeah. So the visual upgrade is huge.
Yeah.
And that's a good like 10% of why this movie is better than the other ones.
Yeah.
And Guardians 2 looks even better. So
So we should mention the Stan Lee cameo comes in pretty early.
Oh yeah, Rocket's like looking at people through this device and
he's
making fun of
commentating
them.
on them.
Yeah, and then he sees Stan Lee hitting on this young woman, and he makes a joke about like, does your wife know you're out or something like that?
Yeah. That's about it. So then they get arrested and they're sent to the kiln. That's what it's called, the kiln.
Yeah, but before they're sent there, I just wanted to comment on, again, these are characters we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Smart way to introduce them and give us some exposition about the characters by having them in that lineup where John C. Reilly is listing off their names, attributes, and Peter Serafinowicz is saying, what a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just a good way to get some exposition out, and it's engaging.
Yeah.
Take
totally
note
agree.
of that, scriptwriters. That's nice. I enjoy that kind of exposition.
And that was probably a 30-second scene. That's really all we need.
And it gives us enough. Yeah.
We know that Gamora is
Daughter
like genetically modified to fight in a way. Peter, there's a part of him that
I don't think she's genetically modified.
She has been trained.
Did they say that?
I think they said mentioned that like
I missed that.
parts have been changed about her to be a better fighter. Of course, not to the degree that Nebula is, who is basically a robot.
Yeah.
But since she has been abducted from her planet, that's all she's been doing. And I think there have been parts of her that have been changed for that.
Also, Total side note. Nebula, I remember hating her in this movie.
Yeah.
Not the case. Totally just didn't get it, I think.
Nebula, we're Team Nebula.
She becomes one of the best and complex characters in the universe.
Yeah.
I think you really dive into that in Guardians 2. So we'll save that.
Even Endgame. You really dive into that. Well, even Infinity War, you kind of dive into that.
She's the only character to kill herself.
What's interesting about Guardians is there is such a personal connection to Thanos, who becomes the antagonist of just Marvel, period. Yeah. So, like, Infinity War comes out, and you're like, oh, Guardians ties in so deeply into this. You have no idea.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
I remember we were talking before we went and saw Infinity War, and we just said, I hope that they don't just shelve the Guardians, because they're so important to Thanos, and then they're in like most of the
then they're not.
War.
They're like they're given due what they
and we were
owed.
Just like, oh, perfect, great.
Yeah. So then Guardians are in this prison, and it's still what's interesting is like even though they're in prison now, Rocket and Groot are still like Star-Lord's ours. Peter is ours. No one touch him.
Yeah.
And then all the other people are like, they want to kill Gamora because they know that she is with Thanos/Ronan.
Yeah.
And they know that they want to get rid of the Xandar race.
Yeah.
So like they people want her dead immediately as she walks through the doors.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that's the thing that kind of moves the story forward a little bit.
Yes.
And then like very, very subtly, we are introduced to Drax.
And this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is such a cool way to introduce him because it's a shot of Gamora in her cell, and all of these people are pounding on the cell saying they're going to kill her, and then they slowly walk away, and you see down a story down is this large man sitting there, and the camera kind of pans toward him.
Yeah.
And then he like threatened, like some people are trying to kill her in the next scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, get out of here. She's mine.
Yeah.
And that's when you find out that Ronan killed his family.
Yeah. And he wants to kill her for retribution. When she makes a deal with him, like, I will take you to him if you don't kill me.
Yeah.
And his character design is so cool because he looks like he's made of granite.
Yeah.
And it's a person that they like makeup wise like painted to look like that. And then you find out really easy, like quickly on, that he is very like his race. his
just
race.
Granite. What a strange. I mean, you're right.
Don't you think so?
You're right.
His race of people like don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, they take everything literally.
Very literally, which provides like I'm just gonna sweeping statement. Half of the comedy of the second movie.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Is Drax.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of how literal he is.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in the second movie, he is developing a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And
but he like struggles with it because he still doesn't quite get it.
Gosh, it's so funny. But we keep talking about the second movie. Yeah. We're not even there yet.
We are covering this movie pretty thoroughly though, Jordan. We're doing a good job.
I'll say so.
This is gonna win us our potty award.
So then like
potty award.
Don't
forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
So the Rocket, Groot, Peter, Gamora, Drax. It not like it's not super defined, but it's like they're going to figure out a way to get out of here. Because they're in a way, even when they're in behind bars of this prison, to them it's just like we're getting out of here tomorrow.
Yeah.
They can't keep us in here. We're too important. We have too much to do. So one of the best scenes in the movie happens. And we're like, what like minute mark are we in this movie? Uh-huh. How far into this movie are we?
I don't know.
Like this is like almost first act still.
Yeah.
Do you want to take this scene over?
No. Keep going.
Oh,
keep going.
So you have.
I thought you were like on a train of thought, and then you just stopped halfway through.
I didn't want to talk too much. So you have Gamora, Peter, and then Rocket sitting at a table with their meal, and Rocket is explaining to them the plan of getting out of here. And as he's explaining it, you see Groot in the background. I remember seeing this for the first time. I don't know what you thought, but it was one of those experiences where I'm watching it and I'm like, I'll never feel this way again. When I watched the movie a second time, you know?
Oh yeah, like,
So, like,
a certain joke where you're like, that was so funny,
Yeah.
but it'll never be.
So
that
he's
funny
explaining it, and you're really trying to listen to his plan because it's very elaborate. But in the background, Groot, he's like, we really need to get this battery that's way up here. And Groot's like, I should just do it now. Like, you can see the expression on his face. I'll just do it now.
Yeah.
So he goes up. He's trying to yank this battery out of the wall as Rocket's explaining everything, and then Drax is coming over with his tray of food, not necessarily even coming over to them. He just has his food. Groot is trying to pull his battery out of the wall, and Drax is just looking around like, is anyone else seeing this right now? There's a tree trying to pull a battery out of the wall. And then right before he successfully pulls it out, Rocket says, of course we need to get the battery last.
And then he pulls
battery
it out.
gets pulled out. I love it when like they're explaining a plan and immediately it doesn't go right. So you have to improvise.
Yeah.
So we don't need to get into it too specifically of how this all happens, but they get out of the prison.
Yeah. And there's the cool like anti-gravity stuff, and again, the technology in the movie is very cool.
Yes.
It's not like
it's intuitive,
grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice, honestly, because all the Iron Man stuff is.
Yes.
Like it's not, but it is, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have stuff that's just kind of out there a little bit.
It's just like you see it and you're like, cool, this world works that way. I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm. And the prosthetic leg thing, so good.
Very, very freaking funny.
Yeah. Oh, and this is the first movie appearance besides a credit sequence of Thanos. Just wanted to say.
Oh, on the screen.
And it's Josh Brolin, and the first guy was not Josh Brolin. So this is Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Looks very different than he does in Infinity War, I guess.
Yeah. And then as they're escaping the prison, back to the prison, his Walkman, where is it?
Peter's Walkman.
And so he goes back, and this alien is listening to his music, and he grabs it, and he flies out by himself, and then Drax looks, and he says, "Behold." And it's the Pina Colada song. If you like pina
and he
coladas.
Says, "You are an idiot."
Once he comes
realizes
in,
it. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then they go to Nowhere, which is the dead skull of a celestial being.
Yeah.
Cool design. Love all of that.
I remember
stuff.
that too. The first time I saw the movie, I was like, "What?
Yeah,
that is like one of the coolest concepts I've ever heard."
Yeah, it's
just like an offhand comment almost, which is probably the thing that I'm most impressed with.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just an offhand comment about this is a celestial being god.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah,
I love it. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And why are they going here?
Because they're trying to sell the stone to Benicio del Toro,
the collector.
Yes. And Groot makes a little flower for the girl as they walk by. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, what should we do? What should we do? I mean, we have so much to go through.
Peter tells Gamora the story of Footloose. He tells her the infamous story of Kevin Bacon, tries to get her to dance. She starts swaying. Simultaneously, Drax, Rocket, and Groot are betting on like these alien, basically like the best thing to compare it to is like a dog fight.
Right.
So they're betting on those things. They both get drunk. Sorry, I keep touching you. They both get drunk, and Gamora and Peter are ripped away from their like romantic moment.
Yeah.
To go deal with them, and Rocket's about to kill Drax for calling him like a vermin.
And this is when we dig into Rocket and how he's this creature who like I'm trying to describe. He's just this creature that's been like experimented on and stuff like that, and he's so bitter about it and so hard that he like has to make fun of other people, put other people down so that he can feel big. He's like a classic bully.
Yeah.
But throughout the movie, he kind of learns to like love some people.
Yeah. And to even just try to understand why other people act a certain way.
Yeah.
To even understand why he acts a certain way. And it's just so relatable good. On a human level.
Well, I know James Gunn has said that's like the character he has the most care for and like identifies with most and stuff like that. So there's definite, and you can tell because the way that character specifically like tracks his arc and stuff, and how Guardians 2 in a lot of ways is about him.
Yeah.
It's just like,
oh my
Rocket's
gosh,
the best.
it's so
Rocket's
good.
the best.
Yeah. So
Drax fights Ronan when Ronan shows up.
They get to the collector.
Yeah.
It's Benicio. And he is telling him the story of the Infinity Stones. And I remember this first time I saw it, I just kind of tuned out.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, whatever.
This is the Marvel stuff that I don't really care about.
And then now it's important.
It's so important to pay attention.
Thing. Yeah.
Because he's explaining he's explaining Infinity Stones in general, and then he's explaining what this one does.
Yeah.
And you see the power of it. Because that girl tries to harness its power. And
it is cool how the orb like opens up.
Yeah, I
and
think
like
it's
separates in half.
Yeah.
And it's cool that we've been to the collectors. You can go to the collectors.
Everyone go to Disneyland and go on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. It's amazing.
Mission Breakout. Oh,
yeah.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
It's the best ride. It's not my favorite like ride in terms of how the actual ride goes, but the story of the ride and the visuals and the sound is the best.
That ride was
because the dropping and up and down is not my favorite.
Yeah.
The best is like Space Mountain.
That was my favorite
Thunder
ride
Mountain, but
before Guardians because it was Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So that's why it was my favorite. Also, I just love the sensation of falling like that.
Yeah. I do like it, but it does make... Remember when we went last time, I was sick after I did it?
I would have done it 3 more times.
Both times. We did it twice, and I had to like not do stuff for an hour.
Yeah, that's true. It was pretty intense. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so they get out of Benicio. They get out of Benicio's.
Oh, it's getting late.
And yeah, so Drax calls Ronan to try and entice him to come here.
Yeah.
Ronan's coming here anyway because this is like, oh, the stone's here, I'm gonna go get it. Drax tries fighting Ronan, fails.
Yeah.
Just like so easily. And then at the same time, Ronan's minions are trying to get the stone from Gamora.
Yeah.
All this ends with Drax almost dying, and then Gamora is in space without a ship, dying, like freezing.
Mm-hmm.
And they have gotten the stone from her. And Peter has to make a choice of leaving her, which seems to be the only choice, or giving her his like life helmet. Yeah. And Rocket's like, you can't do that, you'll die in seconds. And you're like, duh, he would die in less than seconds because he's a human.
Yeah.
And then he sacrifices himself for her, and he doesn't die. And you're really confused when you see this first movie. And this isn't answered for a couple years.
Yeah. I think for me, I was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
I think it was too, but now seeing the second movie.
Yeah, because you find out he's like half god.
You're like, I could care about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you even see his dad outside of a spaceship riding it in the movie. So it makes sense that he'd survive a little bit. Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out that I think is pretty cool also about the movie is the people in the movie are less heroic because the universe is so big.
Oh, interesting.
So how, they're like worried about the stone, and Rocket's just like, I just want to get paid.
Yeah.
He's not worried about saving the universe. Yondu's like, I just want the stone because it gives me money. Like everyone's...
A lot of people are motivated by money.
Yeah, and it's a little more like self-interest. Their self-interests are more important. And I think that has a lot to do with like, they're flying around in ships, and they're it's like, I can't worry about every planet. I'm just going to worry about my little ship and my friends. And it's kind of a nice juxtaposition where as everyone else is like trying to save everybody else, which is not bad in those movies.
It's just not altruistic in any way.
Yeah. It's like in this movie, it's full of a lot more Han Solos, whereas like the other Marvel movies are a bunch of Luke Skywalkers,
Wow.
Yeah.
Quote that. Or pull quote from this episode.
I don't remember when he says this, but I wrote it down, is at some point Star-Lord says, they got my dick message. And I wrote that down, and that's what we're saying.
That's before the big battle scene when Guardians are trying to tell Xandar, like, yeah, we know that we're criminals. We know we've messed up.
But Ronan is coming.
And we want to help you, and please team forces with us. And then they do team forces with us.
Yeah.
And he says, like, they're like, Peter Serafinowicz is like, basically, we're here to help you. And Peter says to Gamora, they got my dick message. That's his response to their call to duty.
Because in the message he says, like, I know we're dicks or something like that.
We're dicks, but we're not a-holes or something like that. But yeah, so when Peter is picked up as he's dying with Gamora, he's picked up by Yondu, and the whole time he's trying to get away from Yondu.
Yeah.
And you're not totally sure why.
Yeah.
Then you find out Yondu was the one, like we have said previously, he raised Peter. He's the one who beamed him up. So they're scavengers.
Yeah.
Which is, it sounds
Ravagers.
like... Ravagers. Sorry, they're Ravagers. And that, and like, without getting too much into it, that's kind of like an organization of people.
Yeah.
Who ravage things for money.
Again, explored more in the second movie.
Yes.
Which is good world building.
Yes.
We just get a little plant of it here and it works.
Yes. And this is when we're introduced to Yondu's, like, I guess, power or, like, ability, where he has this, like, when he whistles.
We learned about that a long time ago because he did it to the guy who he tried to sell the stone to.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So he has this whistle. When he whistles, this, like, it looked like a wand.
It's an arrow.
Oh, duh, an arrow. This arrow comes up and it will kill people.
Yeah, and he can like whistle which direction it'll go and stuff, and it floats. And
that's just one of those things where it's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but also...
And it's activated by his
coolest
mohawk.
Thing. Yeah.
His like built-in mohawk thing.
Yeah. That's like one of my favorite parts.
His nucleo something. There's a name for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because let's quit referencing the second one so much.
Sorry, listener.
Well, no, it's part of the series, so I mean, it's good
it's very tied together.
Yeah.
So they, like, Yondu is like within seconds away of just killing Peter for betraying him,
but not really, because he's always trying to save Peter.
And Yondu is called in this movie more than once that he's soft, and he won't kill people, and he keeps telling people like, I'm gonna kill him. And this is explored more in the second movie.
Yeah.
So then he doesn't kill Peter in exchange for once they take care of Ronan and take care of everything, Yondu will end up with the stone. That's the deal that they make.
Yeah. And then the team they band together.
Yeah.
It's a classic band together scene.
This is the Guardians scene.
Yeah.
It's the Guardians of the Galaxy. We haven't even talked about the soundtrack that much.
I know. Well, it's kind of it just is what it is.
It is.
You watch the movie and you're like, yeah.
This is when we're hoping Anthony is putting it in a little bit, but it's okay if not Anthony.
Yeah. Also, this is just when the movie, like, the soundtrack is so integral to the movie. It's a good 15 to 20% of how good the movie is.
Yes.
So of course that all plays into it, but it does, and that does separate it from all the other movies because it's just like, this is a soundtrack movie, like Baby Driver or something, where you're like, if it had just a normal score on it, it's just not as good.
Yes.
It's just a movie that's made to have a soundtrack.
Absolutely.
And it also is like a character thing because it's Peter is attached to his mom, and his mom gave him that music and the Walkman, and that's why he like couldn't leave it in that jail cell and stuff like that.
It's just beyond that he likes music.
Yeah, it's not just there for fun. It's not just a fun needle drop like in Suicide Squad where they're just like, remember Eminem? And they just like, play a stupid song
and you would think
something
like,
from the early 2000s.
This is what ties him to Earth. And it's like, no, this is what ties him to his mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm crying already.
And then we have the final sequence, which is not that long, actually.
No, and it's exciting. And I said this as we were watching it. It's exciting because these are all aliens.
Yeah.
They all have these they all have these abilities that are just like something, it's nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So it's just more interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Xandar does that cool shield where all their the Nova Corps ships line up and it creates this yellow shield.
And it like molds itself to the ship rather than like creating just a thick.
It's like a weird net. It's like a netting.
Net. That's what it is. So then you see also that Groot. You really like see his powers. So like there's this part where Peter, Groot, and Drax are like fighting a bunch of guys, and then like dozens of more guys come down this ramp, and Groot just rams his arm through like 10 men. Yeah. And he's swinging them around in this corridor, killing them. And his response to that afterwards, huge laugh from the Martinez family. He turns around and just giggles.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, Dad, I did it. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so funny.
You know what's funny? We have actually not said that the only thing he says is, I am Groot. We haven't mentioned that.
Groot's actually not saying anything besides that.
Yeah.
But we
I
know
have
what
a
he's
note
saying.
here that just says cinematography is so good.
At
So,
this part in the movie, probably.
I think just in general, I was
well,
saying
the one scene in particular, I think we thought was when Peter. So the whole goal is to like Rocket created this bomb/gun thing, and they're like, if we fire it at Ronan, it will surely kill him. And at this point, Ronan does have the power Infinity Stone. So like they get to the point where Peter has the gun, he shoots the gun, and it's like this bomb thing that goes off at Ronan.
Oh yeah,
and you're like,
it's slow
over.
motion, and it looks so good.
It's just there's so much texture, and you feel like you can touch it and
Yeah.
feel it. And so, like, surely they've killed him. Of course not, because he has the power Infinity Stone,
Yeah,
which now bears a lot of weight.
yeah. And also before that, there's just that cool thing where Groot filled up that dark room with the fireflies, and it just feels good to see.
That's after.
No, he does it. He does it when they first break into the Xandar ship, and Drax says like, "I can't see anything."
Oh, you're right.
And he does that,
And that's when Drax is like, "You are my friend,
yeah,
and you are my friend."
Yes. And then when Ronan stands back up, a ship comes flying through, and Rocket's like, "Ah!" and he's riding the ship,
right.
and he smashes into him, and that also visually is just so good and stimulating.
Yeah.
Then the ship crashes.
You know, I think what's interesting, because we were talking about that battle scene takes place during daytime.
Yeah.
But most of what we see, well, I'd say about half of what we see takes place
in that dark
inside
ship.
the ship.
Yeah, so there's
So
that
it looks like it's
juxtaposition.
night.
And Nebula's fighting Gamora, and she's like, "You're just a disappointing sister." So Nebula's still a bad guy.
Yes.
And it's cool that later we're going to see that she is not going to be a bad guy anymore.
And you see, like, Gamora break bones in her, and Nebula fixes herself because she's like a cyborg.
Yeah.
She mostly is a robot. So it is obviously, you can tell, very painful to her.
Yeah.
But she can fix herself,
Right.
which is so cool.
Yeah. Then they crash, and Groot makes that like wooden ball
Around everyone.
to protect the Guardians. And Rocket's like, "You're gonna die," and he's kind of crying. And then the
I'm
fireflies
crying.
come out.
Yeah.
And it's actually like really moving moment.
Yeah.
I was tearing up when we watched it this time.
I shed an actual tear
Wow.
watching it.
Because he is just sacrificing himself, and he's been pretty, even though he's like a bounty hunter, he's like a pretty altruistic being.
Yeah.
And he just is kind of like, he loves his friends.
Yeah.
That's enough for him.
Yeah.
I am Groot, you know?
Yeah.
And they crash,
And
then
Groot is gone.
and Groot's gone.
We
He's
didn't
shattered.
mention-
It's so cool, the set design, how there's just all those twigs everywhere.
And
So cool.
Rocket's sobbing and picking up twigs.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't mention before, like, probably the moment they became the Guardians of the Galaxy is when Peter was telling his plan, his quarter of a plan,
yeah.
to everyone, and they were standing in the circle, and they all stand up.
Right.
And Rocket stands up and is like, "Okay, we're all standing up now. Who cares?"
Like a bunch of idiots.
So that's like
Yeah.
the moment they become the Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy. So then Groot sacrifices himself and like dies.
Yeah.
And then Ronan's still alive throughout all of this because he possesses the Power Stone.
Yeah.
And he's about to destroy Xandar completely.
And all he has to do is just like set down his rod and
That's
like
it.
speak it. And then Chris Pratt jumps up and he goes, "Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier." And he starts dancing, and he's like, "Now to you, Gamora." And she doesn't dance, and he's like, "Subtle, I like it." And then he keeps dancing a little bit more, and then the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "It's a distraction, dummy."
Yeah.
And then Rocket shoots
He calls him like Turd Bucket or
something
like
weird
that.
like that. And then he shoots him. They grab the
with
stone.
that big gun thing, yeah.
Yeah, they grab the stone, which is really visually cool because everything turns purple.
Oh, it's so cool.
And
then
they
like
all grab
parts of them
hands.
come out. Yeah.
And then he says he like destroys Ronan.
Well, then like the cool part about that, which comes into Guardians too, Ronan's like, "You can't do that. You're a human. How
But
can you
he's
do that
half
and
God, baby."
not be disintegrated?"
Yeah.
Don't talk about him being a half god. We haven't even gotten to Guardians too.
Yeah, we're talking about the whole series, yo.
Okay, fine.
Oh, okay.
Dead air.
Yeah, and then they save the day. Xandar saved. They're all
Yes.
saved. Groot does this dance, and it's the best thing ever.
So newsflash, Rocket plants Groot, and Groot comes back.
Yeah. I thought I had read that that James Gunn did say that it is like a different version of Groot, though. It's not like the same exact Groot.
Interesting.
But it's like a tree. It's like you got a branch and now
from the one tree.
Yeah, it's not like he's the same Groot.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. But then you like, so they defeat Ronan and John C. Reilly and Glenn Close, who are part of Xandar. Like, you have been exonerated of all of your past crimes.
Yeah.
And we have also replicated your ship.
Yeah. And then they go away to...
They leave together.
No mountain high enough.
But like, yeah. So like the movie, like early on in the movie, you see that the present that Peter's mom had given to him as a child, he had never opened.
Yeah.
So at the end of this movie, he finally opens the present, and it's volume 2, mixtape volume 2.
Yeah.
And the movie ends with him starting the mixtape.
Uh-huh.
And like, how are you not crying at this point? Anyone, please.
It's great.
Yeah.
It is. It's a great movie.
And it's like...
It's the best so far that we've covered.
Yeah, and it's like they're
of
leaving.
The series.
Yeah. And it's leaving, and I don't remember if it's Gamora or Rocket or something, but it's like, so what are we going to do? Like, are we going to do something good? Or are we going to go do something bad? And Peter's like...
Or a little bit of both.
Yeah, and then Peter's like, let's do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's the Guardians.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And that's the movie. Yeah. I don't think I have... I think we really thoroughly covered this movie.
I think we did too.
I'm pretty sure we're like well over an hour and a half.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best one so far.
Yeah.
Until we get to Guardians 2. I mean...
Yeah.
And then Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
So... thanks for listening. Please show a friend this week.
Please. Especially this one.
We want to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? We want to, right now, as we're recording this, we got 6 reviews. And that's great. Let's pump that sucker up to 20, huh? We just need you to write a thing or two.
Yeah.
Anyway, next week is it Avengers Age of Ultron? Yes, it's Avengers Age of Ultron.
You would know, I would not.
We're almost done with phase 2, and then we're gonna announce what our next series is gonna be, and it is a doozy. And it's not a doozy like Mad Max where we were like, oh, we're just gonna rant and rave for 4 hours. It's a doozy like, oh, okay.
I don't know if anyone can guess it.
It's things that everyone will.
You hear it and you're like, of course.
Yeah, you'll have seen at least the first 2. Everyone who's listening to this has seen the first 2.
Yeah.
And also, actually, if you want to know what it is, comment, make a review and guess. And if you want to suggest what one of our future ones should be,
we're open to suggestions.
You can leave that comment there as well. Because once we finish phase 3, we don't know what we're going to cover after that. So we need maybe some voting or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, shut up, Micah.
But thanks for listening to this and taking this ride with us.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.